Oh hi, you caught me staring at my complete Mario and Luigi series collection. Yep, even the Bowser's Inside Story remake. After almost 9 years, we finally got a brand new game. And things weren't looking great for the past 5 years, especially after the series' primary developer, AlphaDream, went bankrupt in 2019. So things weren't looking great for it. That was until the very beginning of the June 2024 Nintendo Direct. And after an excruciating 4.5 month long wait after the reveal, Mario and Luigi Brothership finally released on November 7th. So does the game live up to AlphaDream's legacy? Or was IGN right? Well, let's find out. The categories I'll split this review into are box art, story/characters, performance, controls, visuals, music/sound, locations, and battles/bosses. Keep in mind that this video will contain full spoilers for the game, so if you haven't beaten it yet and don't want to be spoiled, click off of this video now. But come back after to see if you agree with me or not, and if you don't, you can call me names if you want. So let's not waste any more time. It follows the same template the series has followed since the original Bowser's Inside Story. I know they've always looked like this in Japan, but Partners in Time was a little bit different, so it doesn't count. Mario and Luigi are on top of the logo on a blank white background with an important character on the left and the main gimmick of the game on the top right. I know there's a lot of people that don't really like this style because it's boring, but I personally think it's clean and fits the series well. And going back to the logo for a second, this is technically a new logo for the series. Here's the one they've used since Dream Team, and here's the new one. So not that much different, just some color alterations. This is the first game in the series to use 3D models for all the character artwork instead of 2D art, and I think it looks great, although I definitely prefer the 2D art. The back of the box is nothing special though. I do really like the inner artwork that they use. I'd like this as a poster or something. And I like that Mario and Luigi are hiding behind the game card. I always like when there's something hiding behind it. There's a couple of other games that do that. It's a fun detail that I'll always appreciate. The story, while being more in-depth and interesting than your standard Mario game, isn't too crazy. It is a Mario and Luigi game after all. So basically Mario, Luigi, and a bunch of others get transported to a new dimension, I think. However, this giant island was ripped apart by the game's main antagonist, Zocket. Wow, the antagonist did a bad thing? So Mario and Luigi's goal is to get to the lighthouse on each island so they can be reconnected. Each island has its own little subplot, but I don't feel like delving into each and every one. Like on Twisty Island, you have to get this guy some hair wax. Really deep and engaging storytelling. Thanks, Acquire. That's the name of the company that made the game, in case you didn't know. And that's how it goes for the first chunk of the game. It does get more interesting, however. And I know what you're thinking. Something more interesting than hair wax? Zocket, who is the main antagonist in case you forgot already, is spreading a disease, I think, called Gloam. It basically wants to make you isolate yourself from people. Relatable. Doing this also causes the resurrection of some ancient evil guy. After Zocket is defeated, the ancient evil guy, whose name is Reclusa, is fully revived. Now you have to go back to islands you've already visited and collect characters' bonds. This is where the game's rough pacing really started to get to me. Like, yeah, the beginning was pretty slow, but I could deal with it because it was finally a new Mario and Luigi game. But at this point, it was literally just going back to places you've already been. It felt like unnecessary padding to make a game that was already long enough longer. After you get all those, you defeat Reclusa and the game's over. The end. Happy ending. It had a happy ending? You're telling me Mario didn't sacrifice himself? So it's not anything too crazy in terms of a Mario RPG story, but it's definitely more interesting than anything we've gotten since Dream Team. Unless the Mario plus Rabbids games have really interesting stories, I haven't played those. But I'm gonna continue to make fun of them because this looks dumb. I don't think there was a single character that I hated either, not even Snoutlet, who is your main companion in this game. Which is really surprising because Mario and Luigi companions have a history of being annoying. I felt like getting this out of the way because it's probably my biggest complaint. The game just does not run that well, unfortunately. The frame rate will drop pretty frequently in my experience, and it gets really bad towards the end of the game when there's red fog everywhere. And while it's definitely unfortunate, it didn't really detract from my experience, to be honest. I mean, yeah, it's bad and pretty unacceptable, but it didn't ruin the game for me. The main area affected by the lag is Shipshape Island, which is the game's hub world, and there isn't really an instance here where the frame rate dropping would affect that much. The game runs smoothly when it really matters though, like in battles. Another complaint I have with the performance is the loading times. It's not terrible, but when you have to wait 3 to 5 seconds after every battle, it really adds up. So I really hope when the Switch successor comes out, they go back and patch some older Switch games to make them run better.
Oh yeah!
Why does Luigi use A to select his attacks? Why? The controls in the overworld are weird too. Like, you don't really control Luigi anymore. He jumps over ledges and gaps by himself now. It's not a massive deal or anything, but it makes it feel less like Mario and Luigi, and more like Mario with Luigi, if you get what I mean. You can also just send Luigi off to do stuff by himself. Bye. The game's visual style is excellent, and basically the perfect evolution of the 2D sprites. I think a hand-drawn style might have looked better, but the cel-shaded 3D models still look amazing anyway. And they still managed to capture the unique look the Mario and Luigi series has for its characters, like the solid black pupils, the more exaggerated proportions, and the black outlines. I mean, this technically isn't even the first time the Mario and Luigi series has gone 3D. Dream Team, Paper Jam, and the Bowser's Inside Story remake all have segments where they use 3D models. And even before that, there's these Bowser's Inside Story styluses that have 3D depictions of some of the characters. The animations in this game are extremely expressive too. I mean, look at that.
Oh yes!
The music is actually an interesting point of discussion this time around, because for the first time in the series' entire history, a new composer was brought in. Forgive me for my pronunciation, Hideki Sakamoto, I think that's how it's pronounced. I'm not good with pronouncing names, I don't even know how to say this. So after the series having a single composer since the very beginning over 20 years ago, a random change like this can be weird. The new guy does a good enough job though. But is the music as good as the previous games? I don't want to say it's the weakest or the worst because that just sounds too harsh. So I'd probably call it the least not bad in the series. Like, it just doesn't feel the same. And here's the update on Kevin Afghani. Has he continued to improve? Yeah, he does really good in this game. The game is split up into multiple different islands which are spread out across 5 different seas. There's a good amount of islands in this game, and for the most part they're really different from each other. The only time things got kind of repetitive and samey was the Burning Sea, because there's an ice island, a fire island, and a fire and ice island. Along with regular islands, there's Great Lighthouse Islands. This is where the main boss of each sea is. There's Fortress Zocket and the Solitary, being the base of Zocket and Reclusa respectively.
Oh yeah!
For the final category, I want to talk about the battles and bosses. And I need to get out of the way how great Shy Guys are in this game. They have like one attack and it's literally the minigame Shy Guy says from Mario Party. It's really cool. The battle system got a slight tweak this time around. Mario and Luigi participate in each other's standard jump and hammer attacks now. I think it's an interesting and somewhat needed change. The battling had been nearly identical for the past 3 games, so a shakeup was most definitely due. But Paper Jam added the emergency guard. And technically it doesn't really change up the gameplay that much. It only means you have to press another button. So instead of pressing 2 buttons, now you have to press 3 buttons. The Bros attacks are also really good this time around, and I can actually figure out how to use all of them. Unlike in Paper Jam where I still have no idea how to do Toad Trail. And I think the bosses are also really good. I just wish there were more of them. And adding Luigi Logic to them definitely makes them slightly more interesting, I guess. I just wish there was a way to refight them. It added a lot of replay value to Bowser's Inside Story, Dream Team, and Paper Jam. I lied, that wasn't the last category. Here's some random things that I want to talk about. There are the reefs you can find scattered throughout the place, and 4 of them reference previous games. Every game gets a reference, except for Paper Jam. And I get it, that game doesn't really have much of its own identity, but they could have done the book, the trio attack hammer, even Nabbit, because that's the only Mario and Luigi game he's in. I mean, I've got plenty more. I can come up with more for the rest of the day. I'm just glad it's 11:59 p.m. And I completely neglected to mention the battle plugs. All they do is just add some effects to your attacks in battle, like dropping a spike ball or creating a shockwave or something. I figured out you could do this by quickly alternating between Mario and Luigi on the stats screen, and the credits being an actual cutscene is nice. It gives me a good excuse to not pay attention to the actual credits. So in conclusion, I'm just glad the series isn't dead, and I was really confident that it was. I mean, take a look at this thumbnail I made about a year ago. I'd probably rate it like an 8 out of 10. And I just figured out what the reef for Paper Jam could have been. It could have been the emergency guard button.